You know, Amulet Titan has remained tier 1 through many different modern formats, and the only reason it's stayed legal is because it's hard to play. Or that's what the nerds say. Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to talk about Amulet Titan in Modern. We're going to talk about cards in the deck, the overall strategy of the deck, and how to play the deck. Let's jump into it.
What are you doing?
I must protect my precious amulet. Precious.
This is Amulet Titan in Modern. Whoops. Let's see if I can... I think we can show all the lands. Perfect. So this is Amulet Titan. It's been around for essentially ever, and it looks very, very different than the way it used to exist. And I'm going to go in a little bit of a different order today. I'm going to talk about these cards first, and then we're going to talk about the lands, because the lands are kind of the central part of this deck. Notice there's 32, which is an insane amount. But the general combo in this deck is having Amulet of Vigor or Spelunking on the battlefield. So Spelunking says it's a 3-mana enchantment. When this enchantment enters, draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you put a cave on the battlefield, this way you gain 4 life, which is kind of irrelevant. And this says lands you control enter untapped. Amulet of Vigor is a 1-mana artifact, and whenever a permanent you control enters tapped, untap it. So these mean that cards like Gruul Turf and Simic Growth Chamber, and frankly anything you grab with Primeval Titan, all enter untap or untap the same turn that you play it. I mean, Lotus Field, stuff like that. Which means you can immediately use the mana and use the ability. So in doing so, and having these like double mana lands that return a land you control to its owner's hand, but instead enter untapped or untap immediately, instead we're able to create this scenario where when we play these cards, they generate a crazy large amount of mana. Especially when combined with something like Crumbling Vestige, where when it enters add a mana, and then we play Gruul Turf, it untaps, tap Gruul Turf, and then the trigger happens, bring Crumbling Vestige back, and then use one of the many ways that we can play an additional land, play Crumbling Vestige again, it enters untapped because of all this stuff, and when it enters, you add another mana, etc., etc. So this is combined with a Boreal Grazer, which is a 1-mana 0/3 with reach. When this creature enters, put a land card from your hand on the battlefield tapped or untapped if we have one of these. Spelunking does it as well, which I've already read. And Explore is 2 mana. You may play an additional land this turn, draw a card. So between all of these cards right here, we are generating a large amount of mana very, very quickly. We're then able to use that mana to cast Primeval Titan, is our primary target here. Primeval Titan is a 6-mana 6/6 with trample. Whenever this creature enters or attacks, you may search your library for up to 2 lands, put them on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. That, combined with essentially using our lands as one giant toolbox, is pretty disgusting and can lead to some gross combos. Another option is Cultivator Colossus, which can be grabbed with our Summoners packs. Cultivator Colossus is a 7-mana star with trample. Cultivator Colossus' power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. When this creature enters, you may put a land card from your hand on the battlefield tapped. If you do, draw a card and repeat the process. And we have so many lands in our deck that this allows us to draw like most of our deck, and we should be able to combo kill or just straight up kill from there if we are able to get a Cultivator Colossus on the battlefield. Especially if we have one of these, because all those things enter untapped, even though it says tapped. We're also playing an Aftermath Analyst, and this is part of like kind of an interesting combo with Scape Shift and Lotus Field and stuff like that, where it's a 2-mana 1/3. When it enters, mill 3 cards. And we can pay 4 mana and sacrifice the creature, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So this is very, very good alongside cards like Lotus Field, which make us sack our lands, and if it returns to the battlefield untapped, specifically with Amulet of Vigor and Spelunking, or it end with Scape Shift, where we sacrifice any number of lands, search your library for up to that many land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle, which means lands go in the graveyard. We get to pick what lands we want to put on the battlefield, whether we make up a lot of mana or whatever, and then we can activate Aftermath Analyst to bring back the stuff that we sacrificed, and etc., etc. There's additional combo to that, and I'm going to talk about that when we get into the lands. But then we're playing 2 Summoners Pact to grab those Primeval Titans, Cultivator Colossus, and Aftermath Analyst to do those sick combos. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of the deck, and I'm just kind of go in order and try to talk about it all as we go. We're playing 3 Boseiju. Boseiju is a legendary land at a green, and we can channel it to discard this card, destroy target artifact, enchantment, non-basic land an opponent controls. That player may search their library for a land card with a basic land type, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. So Boseiju is very, very good as like artifact and enchantment hate, and as a land we can put on the battlefield and be able to bounce with Gruul Turf and Simic Growth Chamber. Speaking of Gruul Turf and Simic Growth Chamber, I think I'm gonna skip ahead to those because when we search things up with Primeval Titan and we want an effect from a land, like from Otawara or Boseiju or something like that, we can grab Boseiju and Simic Growth Chamber or Gruul Turf, which are both lands that enter tapped. When this land enters, return a land you control to its owner's hand, and we can tap it to add 2 of the corresponding colors, red, green, or green, blue. But its ability, when this land enters, return a land you control to its owner's hand, we can then just return the Boseiju to our hand after, obviously, we've tapped it for mana from Amulet of Vigor or Spelunking, because those triggers all enter the battlefield. And then we can use the ability of Boseiju, even though it's kind of supposed to be on the battlefield with Primeval Titan, which is really, really cool. So this is similarly true with Crumbling Vestige. Enters tapped. When it enters, add 1 mana of any color. We can tap it, add a colorless. You know, we grab it with Primeval Titan, adds a color when it enters, untaps, we can tap it to add a mana and return it with Gruul Turf or Simic Growth Chamber. And then we can play it again, which is just ridiculous. We're playing an Echoing Deeps. Echoing Deeps is, you may have this land enter tapped as a copy of any land in the graveyard, except as a cave in addition to its other types. This allows us to sort of toolbox our graveyard for all of these lands and kind of recur stuff that might be in the graveyard or combos in the graveyard or whatever. Playing some forests, which I'm not going to go into. We're playing a Hanweir Battlements. Hanweir Battlements is a land where you can tap to add a colorless. The other side of Hanweir Battlements doesn't matter. You can pay a red and tap it, have target creature gain haste until end of turn. And the rest of it literally doesn't matter. I'm not even going to read it. So this is a way to give your Primeval Titan haste and grab even more lands, or have a giant Cultivator Colossus and give it haste or whatever. Lotus Field is a hexproof land. This land enters tapped-ish. When it enters, sacrifice 2 lands, add 3 mana of any one color. We can grab Lotus Field when we want to have a lot of lands, or we are popping off with our Aftermath Analysts. We are playing Mirror Pool. This land enters tapped. We can tap to add a colorless. Pay 3 mana and sacrifice this land, copy target instant sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. We're mostly not doing that one. But we can pay 5 mana and sacrifice this land to create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. Which means if we have a Primeval Titan, we grab Mirror Pool, maybe Lotus Field or whatever, sacrifice some lands, untap some stuff, crack Mirror Pool with our plethora of mana, copy the Primeval Titan. We get another Primeval Titan trigger, continue to toolbox our deck. Maybe grab a Talaria West and a bounce land, bounce the Talaria West with the trigger from the bounce land, transmute for a Summoner's Pack, grab Aftermath Analyst, play Aftermath Analyst, crack it to bring all the stuff back, including Mirror Pool, to copy another Primeval Titan. This Primeval Titan grabbing something like Shifting Woodland to copy Aftermath Analyst, to crack it and bring back everything, including Mirror Pool. And you see how this goes on and on and on. And then we can kind of give everything haste with Hanweir Battlements, which is just ridiculous. Speaking of Otawara, in the same category as Boseiju, it's a legendary land. We can tap it to add a blue, channel it for 4 mana, discard this card, return target artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hand. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. This is just a great way to toolbox permanent removal with Primeval Titan or Scapeshift or whatever when paired with one of the bounce lands. Shifting Woodland is, which I've already talked about kind of, enters tapped unless you control a forest. We can tap it at a green. It has Delirium, which is pretty reasonably easy to get Delirium in this deck. 4 mana, this land's become a copy of target permanent card in your graveyard till end of turn. Activate only if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. So what's kind of interesting about this card, point of it is that combo I kind of already went over with Aftermath Analyst, being able to copy Aftermath Analyst, sacrifice it, because sacrificing Aftermath Analyst is a part of the copy, which means Shifting Woodland's back on the battlefield, and it's effectively an infinite combo of being able to like keep cracking Mirror Pools over and over and hitting Primeval Titan and blah 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 blah, which is just ridiculous. Mycosynth Gardens is a land. You can tap it to add a colorless. You can pay 1 and tap it to add 1 mana of any color. You pay X and tap it to have this land become a copy of target non-token artifact you control with mana value X. Multiple Amulet of Vigors is absolutely disgusting. And so being able to copy Amulet of Vigor with Myosynth Gardens can just end the game pretty easily. Playing Talaria West. Enters tapped, we can tap to add a blue and can transmute it for 3 mana. Transmute it, meaning we discard that card, then search your library for a card with mana value 0, review it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Transmute only as a sorcery. Which means we grab Summoner's Pact, which Talaria West in our hand means that we can grab our creatures and toolbox our deck for those creatures and do the Aftermath Analyst combo, which is just disgusting. Again, this is kind of in the same category as Auto Warrior and Boseiju. Normally when you're searching up Talaria West with like Primeval Titan or whatever, you're grabbing it with one of the bounce lands so you can immediately put it into your hand. We're playing an Urza's Cave. It's colorless land where we can pay 3 mana and tap it and sacrifice it. Search your library for a land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. This allows us to like assemble any sort of combo, which, by the way, I'm focusing a lot on the Aftermath Analyst, like effectively infinite combo, but really you can just like make multiple Primeval Titans, give them haste and kill them like really, really easily. We're playing Urza's Saga. It's a cool alternate win condition. Also being an enchantment land, it turns on Delirium pretty well. Its first chapter is it gains tap it to add a colorless mana. Second chapter, the saga gains pay 2 mana and tap it to create a 0/0 colorless artifact creature token. With this token gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. And its third chapter is where you sacrifice it. Search your library for an artifact card with mana value 0 or 1, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. So this exists as an alternate win condition, but also it tutors up the Amulet of Vigors, which is disgusting. And they're playing a single Vesuva. You may have this land enter the battlefield tapped as a copy of any land on the battlefield, which is super toolboxy when we have a lot of lands on the battlefield. So the point of this deck, get as much mana as possible using these untap effects. Be able to play a Primeval Titan to grab lands, to eventually fetch out an Aftermath Analyst in whatever form necessary. We can also just scapeshift into this as well. Aptly play Aftermath Analysts, bring all those lands back. Be able to Talaria West a Primeval Titan, then Mirror Pool the Primeval Titan, and then like copy the Aftermath Analyst with Shifting Woodland, and cycle through and eventually just kill our opponent. As far as sideboard goes, stock up's very good against decks that can answer our combo, so we need to be able to dig even deeper. Dismember, additional removal. Vampire's Vengeance, very good against like energy and stuff like that, decks that are trying to out aggro you. 6, I feel like, is in a similar category as stock up. 3 mana 2/4 with reach. Whenever it attacks, mill 3 cards. You may put a land card from among them into your hand. During your turn, non-land permanents in your graveyard have retrace. So basically good against decks that are good at removing our Primeval Titan or whatever. Tireless Tracker is a 3 mana 3/2 with landfall. Whenever land enters, investigate. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So this gives an alternate win condition and additional draw against decks that are answering our combo and can actually interact with us. Force of Vigor is our great artifact and enchantment hate. Bajuka Bog for additional graveyard hate. Forest we can bring in if we're worried about Ghost Quarter effects, which actually exist in Modern at the moment. And Otawara, be able to remove problematic permanents. But there you have Amulet Titan in Modern. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.